Thank you so much, Curator Hendrickson. Let me first say how honored I am to be appointed to this role as interim president of the University of Missouri System. This is an incredible institution that engenders a high level of pride in all affiliated with it. I speak from firsthand experience as I've been a part of this community for over 30 years, both as a professor and an administrator. But first as an undergraduate student, graduating in 1968, and then a law student graduating in 1971. I have seen the system grow and excel over the years, and I look with great optimism to the future. The mission of our great university is to discover, disseminate, preserve, and apply knowledge. To this end, we must confront many uncomfortable societal issues that, once confronted, will make us stronger. We all know that the university has faced its share of troubling incidents, and we recognize that we must move forward as a community. We must embrace these issues as they come, and they will come to define us in the future. This is a learning experience for us all. We must tighten our focus, improve our culture and climate across all of our campuses, and share in the responsibility to see our university advance in healthy ways built upon respect, respect for others. I completely understand the frustration of our students, faculty, staff, and community. As a founder of the Legion of Black Collegians when I was a student here, I delivered a list of demands to the chancellor in 1969. I was an administrator at Mizzou in 2005 when the Legion of Black Collegians presented another list of demands to administration. And most recently, we received a list of demands from Concerned Student 1950. It is clear to me that a first step is to devote our attention to addressing those demands. It is imperative that we hear all of our students and do everything we can to make them comfortable and safe in our community. As a system of 4 campuses, each of us with our own unique cultures, I see this appointment as a great opportunity to embody the highest ideals of the University of Missouri system. More importantly, it's my hope that together we can behave in ways that justify the sense of pride in this university that we all share. Let me make it clear, though, that one thing will not be tolerated, and that is harmful or hurtful actions to any members of our university community. Any incidents will be addressed swiftly, and any party involved will be held accountable for their actions. I look forward to leading and participating in discussions with students, faculty, staff, and alumni to drive us forward. There is so much passion at the university that we can draw on to make the changes that will improve the education and experience for all members of our community. As the system's interim president, I look forward to collaborating with the chancellors and their leadership teams at each of the 4 campuses. And I look forward to working with Missouri's state leaders as we collectively move our university forward, built on inclusion and pride, but most importantly, based on respect for one another. Thank you.
Questions?
Mr. Middleton, because you're an interim president, how much clout is that going to have?
I don't know, but I'm going to do everything I can in that interim position to move this institution forward.
Your position would be somewhat limited because of your uncertain status. Is that fair?
I'm not going to view it as limited. I have talked to Curator Hendrickson and others. I have their full support in doing what needs to be done, and I intend to do that.
When you say you're going to address the demands of the concerned students 1950, does that mean meet the demands?
Address.
Can you elaborate?
The demands that were submitted in 1969, the demands that were submitted in 2005, and the demands that were most recently submitted to administration involve complex interactions among many in this university. I intend to lead this university towards satisfying each and every one of those demands that can be satisfied.
Have you seen them meet some of those demands that you gave the administration back in 1969?
I cannot deny that we've made remarkable progress since 1969. I've kept those demands on my desk for how many years is that? And I've been checking them off. We've come close. We've made progress, and we will continue to make progress. This university needs to be a place where young, intelligent, thoughtful people can feel free to learn, to interact, and to grow. Those demands are designed to accomplish that, and we will do everything we can, everything humanly possible and institutionally possible to meet those demands.
Are there some of those demands from '69 that have not been met that you're still looking at on that paper that you say we need to meet this one?
As I recall, I've checked all of those off, and I don't have the list in front of me now. There may be one that we didn't meet. But I guarantee you, the ones we don't meet, we will explain why they couldn't be met, hopefully to the satisfaction of the students.
What can we expect from you in the short term, say over the next 60 days or so?
Well, I intend to implement the initiatives that the board has already authorized. That is, appointing a chief diversity officer for the system, engaging in much greater activity to increase the proportion of faculty of color on on all campuses. I'm tired. I don't remember. There were 4. There were 4. Policy review. The collected rules and regulations of the university need to be examined. We need to ensure that what we are doing institutionally, structurally, systemically, accommodate the needs of our students. We will do that.
Are you interested in the permanent position?
At the moment, no.
Sir, I understand as Deputy Chancellor you were involved with diversity issues and spent a lot of time on that. What broke in this circumstance? I mean, what wasn't working? I mean, you'd worked for years on that, and yet these students still felt insecure, or unsafe here.
Yes, I was Deputy Chancellor for about 17 years through 2 administrations. And I did work on these issues as Deputy Chancellor. But I had a number of other responsibilities, so my complete focus could not be devoted to these issues. But in addition, even had my complete focus been on these issues, there were severe resource limitations at the university. It was extremely difficult, if not impossible, to get the institution to devote the kinds of resources necessary to have a significant impact on this problem. But as I have to remind you, this problem is centuries old. And this problem is going to take years to solve, if it can be solved. I think it's important now, and I think that our attention has been drawn to the magnitude of the problem. I think we're at an opportune moment to take some giant steps forward to move this issue far beyond where it has been moved in the past. And I'm committed to doing that.
Have you met with members of Concerned Student 1950, or do you plan to meet with them in the near future?
I have been meeting with members of Concerned Student 1950 for several weeks. And recall, members of Concerned Student 1950 are students at the University of Missouri. And so I have met with members of that group before the group existed, talking about these issues. I will meet with Concerned Student 1950 after this press conference, if they're here. And I will continue to meet with them until we can devise a solution.
Mr. Middleton, several years ago, when a descendant of James Rollins gave the university a contribution to set up a slavery atonement endowment, he had to struggle to keep the words slavery atonement in the title because of resistance within the administration and the MU News Bureau. How do you root out that kind of unwillingness to face the past?
Better education of our administrators, better education of our faculty, better education of our students. When I learned of the concern that had been expressed to Mr. Mannering, who was the donor on that slavery atonement fund, my immediate reaction was, call it what he wants to call it. One of the problems, one of the things impeding our ability to get beyond this problem is our inability to talk about it. We've got to be truthful. We've got to put the facts on the table. We've got to understand the ugly, ugly history that permeates everything we do in our institutions in this country. And once we get the truth on the table, I think we're poised to reconcile those differences and move forward. And I'm convinced that at this institution, at this time, that is what we need to do.
President Middleton, do you think you were chosen because you're an African American, or asked to be interim president because you're African American? What impact do you think you'll make? Because do you think that'll help ease racial tensions on the campus?
That's a complex question. And it's reflective of the institutional racism that we are trying to get beyond. I suspect that my color will be met with much criticism from parts of our community. I also suspect that my color was a factor in the judgment that I was the person at this time to take this position. Color in this country is an issue that is considered, that affects many, many decisions that are made, positively and negatively. We need to understand that, accept it, and get beyond it eventually.
So what do you say to alums who are not close to Columbia, living in other parts of the country, and feel very frustrated by what they see here, don't understand what's going on?
Education. Education. Let me say it again. education. We need to talk about this. We need to come together, let our guard down, sit across the table, person to person, and respectfully discuss these issues and move beyond them.
Mr. Middleton, how did you feel when, as a member of the university community and as a Columbian, when some students here were saying, I don't feel safe being on this campus, I feel safe in this town?
I was glad that I had retired. It was embarrassing, it was hurtful, it was scary. It crossed my mind that my 30-year career here had been a total failure. But I recognized how deeply rooted this problem is in our culture. And I realized that there was nothing I could do as an individual, even after 30 years of involvement, actually about 60 years of involvement if you look at my story. There was nothing I could do as an individual to change it. And so I'm energized. We need to get our community together, working together, to move us forward on this issue.
What do you
So-
think prospective students who have also nationwide been witnessing this, do you think that some of these protests and these actions by other members of the campus are going to drive people away from it?
No. I think students understand that this is not unique to Mizzou. It is unique to Mizzou only because we happen to be the one that got the first national attention. But if I've been looking at news reports, this is happening all over the country. So I would say to potential students, if you think you can go to a university somewhere else, please think again. And please come here, because we are serious about being the university system that steps forward and becomes a leader in dealing with this problem.
Mr. Middleton, you mentioned that it came across your mind that maybe your 30-year career had been failure, but then you realized that how deeply rooted the problems were. I'm curious, in your career at Mizzou, would you say when it comes to race relations, issues, would you say, looking back on it, there are things that you have missed, that things that maybe you had the blinders on, and what are some of those things that maybe you missed that you didn't realize to perhaps understand the full magnitude of the problem?
I can't identify anything that I personally missed. I think when I referred to the feeling that I had been a failure, it was my failure as an individual to convince all those with whom I worked, all those to whom I reported, all those in positions higher than myself as Deputy Chancellor, my colleagues, my failure to convince them of the magnitude of the problem and the need to address it.
Mr. Middleton, there's been some controversy over what's been so-called the safe spaces on campus. What role do you think safe spaces have here?
I think safe spaces are critical. I think students need spaces where they can feel comfortable, where they can interact without fear. But I think if you're asking in the context of the First Amendment and free speech issues, that's a very delicate balance. Both are essential to our way of life in this country. And the trick is to find that balance, that point at which you are accommodating both interests as much as you can.
What is your message to students on this campus who may be worried about the death threats and vandalism this morning at the Black Culture Center?
As I said, those kinds of incidents will be investigated quickly, dealt with quickly, and the people responsible will be held accountable. MUPD is an amazing law enforcement agency. They are on the job. They will do what they can to apprehend offenders and bring them to justice. But MUPD cannot be everywhere. They cannot walk hand in hand with every student. This is a tense situation. So what I could say to them is be careful. Be careful. Report anything you see. Cooperate with MUPD. And hopefully at some point this kind of turmoil will dissipate.
The board voted to take Chancellor Lofton out of that role immediately rather than waiting to the end of the year to do that transition. Why is that?
You'd have to ask the board about that. And frankly, I don't want to get mired down in discussions of anything that happened prior to today. I'm moving forward. I'm trying to build this institution, to rebuild this institution with excuse me, with a remarkable team of folks here at the system, remarkable teams of people on all 4 campuses that are committed, or as committed as I, to making this university a national leader in this area.
In your time with the university, did you personally ever feel marginalized because race as either a student or a faculty member or an administrator?
Every day, in all 3 capacities. Is that it?
Sir, in terms,
Yes, ma'am.
terms of people, let's say, of a white culture not understanding what marginalized means, how would you describe
Boy, that's a complex question.
it? That's what a lot of people, I think,
Yeah.
are talking about.
It's,
tough.
you know, so subtle. I think women understand it. I think people with a sexual orientation that is not a male-centered perspective on sexuality understand it. I think other people of color understand it. I think folks in power, in the majority, who have never lived it and never experienced it, have difficulty understanding it the way those of us who have been minoritized do. But it is just the feeling of not being heard, not being respected, being placed at the margins of what's really happening in the world. And it happens. And it happens inadvertently. No one is to blame for this. I remember as a child reading the Brown versus Board of Education decision. And there was a statement in that decision that segregation in public schools did damage to the hearts and minds of Negro children in ways unlikely ever to be corrected. I think they missed a point. Segregation in public schools, Jim Crow laws, and if you go back to the beginning, slavery, that whole continuum did damage to the hearts and minds of all children in ways unlikely ever to be corrected. So I sympathize with white people who don't understand. I don't blame white people who don't understand. I blame our ugly history, and I think it's important that we learn that history and understand it so that we can get beyond that history and build the institution and the country that we imagine rather than the institution or country that is.
Any more? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.